In the last stream, we were working on setting up automation using Tom's Simple Storage mod to automate the creation of gravel, which we then auto-crafted using the crafter from Opolis Utilities with our mulch to make gravelly mulch, which we are automatically sifting in our strainer over there, and then we're taking the resultant ore pieces that come from that strainer and running it through this system right here. Now, between streams, I have gone ahead and tweaked this system ever so slightly. The general setup is the exact same. All I've really done is try to make both of these setups here look that little bit more tidy by moving the cables to the back. So instead of having the inventory cable up the front of the machines, I've shifted all of the machines forward and moved as many of these basic inventory hoppers and as many of the inventory cables to the back as I can. You'll see that now, instead of having the hoppers there on the front of the crafters, they're now on top of the crafters. Again, I think it just makes it look a little bit more tidy. I have also gone ahead and got 3 more crafters, those 2 over there and this one over here. That not only makes this whole setup symmetrical, which it wasn't at the end of the last stream, but it also prepares us for the gold, silver, and lead that we're going to start to get as soon as we begin to auto-craft and auto-sieve the dust blocks here to get the gold, silver, and lead, as well as things like redstone, apatite, certus quartz, and blizz powder, all of which we are going to need to progress forward in the pack, and that is actually the very first thing that we're going to work on today. I did go ahead and replace the chest here with a drawer, so the drawer here can hold, I think, either 32 or 64 shovels. I think it's 32 shovels because I think by default the framed drawer can hold 32 stacks of a given item. Usually 32 multiplied by 64 is 2048, but shovels of course only stack in sets of 1, and so this can only hold 32 shovels, but that is going to be just fine. Over here I did move the blast furnace forward by 1, and that allows me to put this basic inventory hopper on the back without having to dig into the wall here, and it also means that going forward, if we wanted to, we could potentially get rid of this wooden hopper, throw down a couple of item pipes, and get multiple blast furnaces going at the same time to increase the speed at which we smelt our resources, although as of right now you can see it's not coming in that fast, and so I think it is going to be just fine with the 1 blast furnace, for now at least. Over here, again, same setup as before, just with the cable behind it, and then I have also gone ahead and done the exact same thing over here with our strainers. I made a few more drawers over here to make this look a bit more symmetrical. We do, of course, still need more drawers to complete that symmetry, but back here, I've just moved all of the basic inventory hoppers to the back. I've moved all the strainers forward by 1. That does mean that we have one of our inventory pipes there in this glass, and I haven't tested this yet, but I'm really hoping that this looks nice. That doesn't look nice, and that's because this didn't reset. Can I reset this paintbrush? I was assuming shift right clicking might wipe it, but it's quite possible that that doesn't work. Can I shift right click on anything else? I might have to get a new paintbrush to make that work. That is not ideal, and so potentially we might have to make another one of these to paint the glass. That's fine. We're doing to do some more glass painting today because I think we're also going to run some cables to these strainers right here, and this is actually where I want to start with today's stream, because as I just mentioned, right now we're not producing or straining these dust blocks, and I do want to produce and strain those dust blocks. To do that, I think I'm just missing 1 strainer, which we actually have in here, as well as, of course, 1 more of the strainer tanks to allow us to store some more eroding water, because over here, the plan is going to be to send cobblestone up into this strainer here. That is going to have the eroding water above it in the exact same way that this does. It's going to turn cobblestone into gravel. That gravel is then going to get sent down into this strainer. We're going to do that using a couple of wooden hoppers back over here. Those wooden hoppers should, of course, be very easy for us to make. Fantastic. And real quick, I'll grab some cobblestone as well, just so I can quickly. Actually, I think I might be able to do that over here. I was going to say put down some cobblestone to get up here to place the tank down, but of course we can do that just by jumping, and we're going to do this, this, and this. The idea being this, is going to turn cobblestone into gravel up here. The gravel is going to go down, and then from there we can actually turn gravel into sand using the same eroding water, and then from there we can turn sand into dust using, again, even more eroding water. So cobble to gravel, gravel to sand, sand to dust. And then here, this one has regular water, and that is going to be the one that strains the dust block to get us the gold, the lead, and the silver, along with the redstone and all the other stuff that we're going to need from that. And so essentially, all we should really have to do here, much like we did in the last episode, is throw down another basic inventory hopper up here to start exporting the cobblestone that we're getting from our resource generator, and then everything else here should kind of just work. The only thing that we are going to have to do is get 3 more buckets of eroding water, because right now we don't have any eroding water, but of course, as we saw previously, eroding water is just eroding salt mulch that you use onto a block of mulch, which we should be able to do, I think, very easily. We should have what it takes to very quickly get 3 of these. Fantastic. And then if we take 3 of these, I do want to empty out this water bucket. So let me quickly do that. And then if we do this and this, we can grab our first bucket of eroding water, which I don't think is actually dangerous at all to our ducks, which we do now have an extra one of, by the way. Between streams, I did manage to get yet another duck down onto the ground. And so we're going to get even more eggs going forward. But real quick, let me do this. And then now we'll get 1 more of those inventory hoppers, which I don't think we have lying around. Actually, never mind. We totally do. Do we have any spare inventory cable? We also do, although I think it is plausible that we might need even more than what we have available here. And it's also possible we might need more framed inventory cable as well, because I want to put this down here on the back, again, just to clear up the front. That does mean we're going to have to put inventory cable here and here at the very least. And then to connect that up, we're probably going to want to run it down as well and through to the ground, which is also going to require some more of the framed blocks. That is fine. Real quick, if we grab some sticks from here, we can make that happen. Also, it has been pointed out to me that these botany pots do also produce apples. And so we actually do need to unlock these and make sure, ideally, that doesn't happen, but we need to make sure that apples go into one of the slots and that sticks go into the other like that. Same is true over here. We can take that out. And I believe we do have at least 1 blue apple in the system. We do. We got 14. Perfect. So we'll put those in as well. If we didn't do that, it wouldn't be the end of the world because they don't produce that many apples, but eventually, once this fully clogged up with apples, then the whole system would just stop working and we wouldn't get any more logs or saplings or sticks because it wouldn't be able to produce more stuff. And so you do want to make sure you have space for all of the resources that are going to be produced in that setup. Real quick though, let's do something like this to get a bunch of sticks, and then let's go ahead and craft some of this inventory cable into the framed inventory cable, just as soon as we get those sticks back. Boom and boom. And then let's quickly run that down through the wall. And I'll do something like this so we can place these down quickly, like this. And we'll see about connecting that to our pre-existing pipeline, which I think is over here somewhere. It is. It's a little bit awkward, but if we do this, and of course we need even more of these, let's put you in here, and then let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, and sure, I guess we'll go down here. It's a little bit awkward, but if we do that, we should be able to pick up these guys, do a quick /home, and get all of the other blocks back down. And of course, once all these are down, we can use our painting stick here to paint everything that's not the glass to look like our light blue colored bricks. That should begin exporting the cobblestone, of course, just as soon as we tell it to export cobblestone. Fantastic. And now we just need to get meshes for each and every one of those strainers. We've got 157 iron, and so I am pretty confident in just making 4 iron meshes here. They last a long time, and they're going to work quite well for us. Let's do this, 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 and this. And then, of course, right here, we want to get another inventory hopper, set that to import, and then over on the other side of the base, we're going to have our setup export all the gold, silver, and lead in, of course, the exact same way that we did in the last stream. Real quick as well, as a slight detour, the Twitch chat is pointing out that we can, in fact, use mulch as a growth medium. So right now we're using dirt as our growth medium inside the botany pots. It turns out we can actually use the mulch itself to grow the mulch faster, which is interesting. Let me quickly do this, and then we'll also do one of these to cover that up. That should start making stuff and sending it around. Over here, you'll see that the dirt has a 1x speed. So dirt is kind of the default speed for growing things inside of the botany pot. If we press U here, you'll see it says speed 1x, whereas the mulch can also be used in a botany pot, and it has a speed of 1.1x. Not a massive improvement, but it's going to take us about 3 seconds here to quickly swap out the dirt for mulch, including on the mulch itself. You can use mulch to grow mulch, and that is just a quick and easy 10% increase in the speed at which we grow all of the stuff here. Nice. And so finally, one thing I have changed, by the way, is I have gotten rid of the inventory connector that we had here, and I've replaced that with a hopper. My thought process in the last episode was that the inventory connector cable that goes down, it kind of works like an external storage does from Refined Storage, if you're familiar with that mod, but I was kind of hopeful that what might happen is all of the gravelly mulch might stay in the crafter until there was space inside of the strainer for it to go to. That's not what happens. Instead, once the strainer fills up, it just starts dumping the gravelly mulch in the system. And the trouble with the inventory connector, as opposed to the basic inventory hopper, is that the inventory connector only puts things into the wooden strainer when they enter the system. It doesn't actively export like the wooden hopper here can. And so I've swapped that out now so that we can begin to work through the backlog of gravelly mulch that we have right here. Other than that, I have not really made any other changes to the base between streams. And so back over here, we should now be able to try and grab our lead, as well as hopefully our gold and silver. Let me quickly check if we need like a higher tier strainer for gold and silver. We might actually. It requires amethyst, gold, or quartz. And so we're not actually going to get the gold or silver just yet until we have gold, quartz, or amethyst meshes. I do see a recipe for the amethyst mesh here at the end of the Gems and Dusts questline. And so I have a feeling we do have a little bit of work to do before we're going to get that gold and silver. But of course, before that, we can grab 3 more lead pieces. And we can get this lead automated over here, because the very first quest in the next machine quest line is to make a flux duct, and this does require 2 lead, and so this lead is very important for our progression. Let me go ahead and throw the lead in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, I'll take that one out, right-click that up on the hopper, like so, and then make sure this is turned on, make sure that's working. That's going to make the lead dust, and of course, that's going to get sent around and get processed in the same way that everything else is getting processed, and then the lead is just going to get dumped into the system. Nice. So let's go ahead and clear our inventory out just a little bit here, and let's see if we can, in fact, start on this machine's quest line. So as mentioned, the very first quest here is to make a leadstone flux duct. The flux duct here is just redstone, lead, and glass. Thankfully, we've got all those coming in now, apart from glass, of course. Speaking of redstone, I do kind of want to use 3 redstone blocks here as my new modifier blocks for the cobblestone, the stone, and the light-colored stone bricks. We do have redstone coming in passively now, and so I think it should be fine. That's just going to allow us to make things just a little bit faster, especially now that we're using the cobblestone both here and here. I think without a modifier block, we would start to run out of cobblestone pretty quickly, because this produces 1 cobblestone every 11 seconds without a modifier, and each of these use 1 cobblestone every 10 seconds. So we're using approximately 1 cobblestone every 5 seconds, which is way more than it's being produced over here. So hopefully that should now work. Back over here, and now that we have the flux ducts, the next quests are to make a machine frame. This is kind of the core of all of the thermal expansion machines, as well as a fluid duct and a crescent hammer. So the crescent hammer there has had its recipe tweaked. It requires just lead, which might make it a little expensive, because right now we do not actually have that much lead. The machine frame requires 1 block of redstone, 6 iron, and 2 flux ducts. How fast is the redstone coming in? The answer is not particularly fast. It's coming in a little fast, but not very fast. One thing we could do as a small detour here whilst we wait for more redstone and lead to come in is we could finally look at getting more of those strainer upgrades, specifically at least 1, but ideally multiple of these improved everything upgrades, which I think we should now be able to do fairly easily. Each one of these improved everything upgrades requires 1 of each of the improved upgrades, and each one of these now really isn't too bad. It's very easy to make these redstone clocks. They don't require any redstone, they're just stone and wood, and then the rest of the recipe is also just stone and wood. Over here, the improved output upgrade just requires copper and stone and cobblestone. Then we have the improved input upgrade. This one does require blocks of lapis, but we have had lapis coming in passively, and so we can make quite a lot of lapis blocks fairly quickly. And then finally, of course, the improved mesh upgrade just requires either bone or copper meshes. Again, we've got a ton of copper and a ton of bone. And so right now we have one, and I think it is the improved duration upgrade. I think that's what's inside of our gravelly sifting mesh. And so real quick, if I make one of these, which does require 4 of those, I'll come back to that one in a second because that one's by far and away the most difficult. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go ahead and make the mesh upgrade. And then finally, I'm going to need 8 blocks of lapis to make 4 of these tier 2 resource generators. And of course, to make that work, we do need to get some more buckets of water. Again, buckets of water, not particularly difficult for us. And thankfully, we can just keep taking this out and filling it up over here to get those resource generators. And boom, there is our improved input upgrade. And so now we should be able to combine that with our improved duration upgrade. If we do this, 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 and this, to get an improved everything upgrade, and then is going to make our strainer just better in almost every conceivable way. It's going to be faster than it is by default. It's going to have a chance to give more outputs. It's going to have a chance to not use the gravelly mulch that's input, and it's also going to have a chance to not take any durability off the iron mesh. And so real quick, what I think I'm going to do is make potentially a few more of these for the remainder of our sieves here. It is really going to come down to how many of those lapis blocks we can get with the lapis that we have. We have the ability to make 21 lapis blocks, which is awkward because it means we can only make 2 more everything upgrades, because each everything upgrade requires 8 blocks of lapis. So we can make 2 more of these everything upgrades, which I think is going to be worthwhile. And then for the remaining strainers, I might go ahead and potentially just put the mesh upgrades in, because right now I'm not too worried about the duration. Like, obviously it being faster would be helpful, but the most tedious part about this currently is coming over and refilling the meshes over and over again when they break. And so I think I'll make 2 more everything upgrades. Potentially I'll put at least one of those into here, because we do want to get the increased output from the dust block to try and get more redstone and lead. But for everything else, I think a mesh upgrade will do fine for now. And not too long later, we now have upgrades in all of our strainers here. Over here, of course, we have the improved everything. Over here, we've got just a mesh. Over here, we have the other improved everything. I put the third improved everything in up here. It's not really necessary in here, but there was not really a good place to put it anywhere else. And so for now, here, here, and here, they all have the improved upgrades, and the rest of them just have improved mesh upgrades to reduce the chances that the durability goes down on the mesh, therefore allowing the meshes to last longer. In the time that it took me to do that, we have acquired almost a stack of redstone and 14 lead. And so now we should be able to start working on things like this machine frame. The machine frame, as we saw a second ago, 1 block of redstone, which we can now do with some iron and some flux ducts. Nice. From there, the very first machine that it wants us to make is the Pulverizer here. The Pulverizer, I'm assuming, requires a piston, simply due to the fact that the piston is a prerequisite. It does indeed, thankfully, very easy for us to make. On top of that, we need 2 blocks of copper, 2 blocks of flint, and 1 block of redstone. So we're missing the copper blocks. Someone did tell me, is it the case that we can turn this back into regular copper? We totally can. Look at that. You can just right click with an X to turn it back. I don't know if that's a vanilla mechanic or not. If it is, that's just my lack of vanilla Minecraft knowledge, but let's do this. Let's do 2 of these. We've got a ton of flint, which is very nice indeed. Of course, 1 more block of redstone, and boom, we get our Pulverizer. Nice. And so that's actually not unlocked the quest yet, because I guess it wants us to go down and make the power for the Pulverizer first, because up until now, we've been using almost exclusively machines that don't require any kind of power, but the Pulverizers and all of the machines from Thermal Expansion do, of course, require some kind of power. So for that, we need a fluid duct, we need a Stirling boiler, and we need a steam dynamo. So the fluid duct right here is made with glass, bronze, and a flux duct. We have almost everything. Let me get like a big batch of copper and tin going so that we can hopefully make a decent amount of bronze. And so we don't have to keep coming back over and over again and making just a small amount of bronze every time we need some. Let me throw about half stack of unfired bronze into there, and you'll see we're actually kind of getting to the point where we are producing too much stuff now, and so what also might not be a terrible idea. I say that, I think half of the problem is that we are not producing enough fuel, as you'll see here, where we're backing up on smeltable resources. I think almost entirely due to the fact that we're not making enough tiny coal, and so I do instead think it might not be a terrible idea to start maybe just exporting the logs. How many items does a log smell? 1.5 items. I'm going to do this as a stopgap measure. Going forward, we should definitely look, and first of all, I'll do this, and then I'll do this. But going forward, we should definitely look at either crafting these into planks and then using them as fuel, or turning them into charcoal first and then using that as fuel after the fact. That did work. Oh, no, that's, I do it wrong every time. It's this one here. Shift right-click the pink log on. There we go. That's going to go ahead and keep that going. Back over here, we should now have enough bronze to make our fluid duct. We do. This is going to allow us to move fluids around. The flux duct allows us to move flux around, or redstone flux, which is power. The Sterling boiler here requires 2 furnaces, 2 cobblestone, 2 fluid ducts, and a redstone. So we do have most of that. 2 furnaces, easy enough. And boom, Sterling boiler. And then finally, we need the Sterling dynamo. This guy right here requires an iron gear, which we cannot make. Oh no, I see. We can use the Sterling boiler plus a redstone flux coil. Interesting. That also doesn't seem doable. Hold on, let me check the quest line here. I will take this, and then down here, produces steam. Oh no, it's a steam dynamo, not a Sterling dynamo. Okay, that is my bad. I'm looking at the wrong dynamo. The steam dynamo here requires a block of bronze, which we can now do, along with another block of redstone, 2 iron, and 2 more redstone. Perfect. That is good to go. So the steam dynamo here runs on steam, and the idea here is that the Sterling boiler is capable of turning water into steam, and then that steam can then be pumped into the steam dynamo using the fluid ducts to allow this to actually run. And so we could probably do with a new room, because we're kind of running out of space in our pre-existing rooms here. And so I think what I'll do is I think I'll expand out this way. Let me see if we can't get another corridor key. As per usual, I would very much so like to get the longest corridor key, this one right here, and I might even go so far as to put another long corridor key on here, which seems a little crazy, but now that we have access to the warp pipes, I feel like there's not really much of a reason for us not to do that. And so let me quickly go ahead and drop these in here. We do, of course, need to get our bone hammer again to quickly smash those down. Perfect. And then if we take these, can I make another one of the long corridor keys to give me just a super long corridor? And that's going to force me to use the, there we go, look at that. That's going to force me to use the warp pipes. I might put one down maybe at the front here and then have another one in the room right at the end. I will make the room medium again. We could go for the tall room, but again, I don't think we're going to need the extra height that's available in the tall room. And so instead, we will just see about making a short room key, which of course is going to require even more of these key fragments. We need even more skeleton keys. We are out of sticks of all things. I really thought we were going to be out of bones or bone meal, but it always seems to be sticks in this pack. That is fine. How many of these can I make? I can make 2 more. That might be enough, but we should also definitely look at getting more bones and bone meal. Down here, I have been continually filling up the strainer here with the bait box to make sure that we keep getting fish. And of course, we can just put all that fish into here to keep getting more of the fish bones for bone meal, which we can turn into bone blocks, and then into bones as and when we need them. Do we have what it takes to make the room key? And do we have what it takes to upgrade that room key? We do. Nice. So let's take this and let's whack it down all the way at the end of this corridor. Nice. And so in here, we're going to throw down our stuff. Let's put down the pulverizer there for now. And in fact, what we can do is we can use our flux ducts to put power into that machine. Right now, it's kind of unnecessary because we only have the one machine, but going forward, as we get more and more machines, it's going to make more sense for us to have a centralized power source that we then distribute with flux ducts as opposed to having a dynamo on every single machine. So if we do this and this is kind of where you want to be having the crescent hammer. The crescent hammer allows you to easily rotate these dynamos, but for now, because I'm cheap, you can in fact put them down the right way, and you want to make sure this little red side is touching the flux duct. From there, we can kind of do the same thing with the Sterling boiler. I don't know if this works in terms of just pumping the steam in there. I guess we could give it a go. It does require fuel as well, so we are going to have to send, some wood or some coal or something over to that to make it work. But if I just quickly grab a bucket of water and a bunch of wood, does this auto-eject the steam into the dynamo? That's my question. So we'll right-click this, and we will do one of these. That makes steam. That steam does go automatically into the steam dynamo. Interesting. Alternatively, you can use these fluid ducts to extract the steam from the Stirling boiler and send it around into the dynamo, which could be useful, potentially, if the boiler produces more steam than one dynamo could use. That is where, of course, that crescent hammer does come into play, which we might as well go ahead and make to complete the quest, if nothing else. And then we do also have the attachment servo here, used to extract fluids and energy. Can I make 2 of these? I can. Nice. So let's get rid of that. And then back over here, one thing we could do is we could move this back by 1, say to here, and then you can use a fluid duct like this, and we can put down the servo on this side to set that to extract, and that's going to pull the steam out over into here. A similar thing would be very useful in terms of getting water into the boiler here. Now, usually the way that would be done is with something like the aqueous accumulator, this guy right here. This looks pretty doable, actually, and is going to allow us to get unlimited water, which we can then use to produce unlimited steam. So back over here, do I have what it takes to make this? I do. We need 1 redstone servo, which is just redstone and iron, and then we get our aqueous accumulator. Let me take my 2 buckets of water that we have right here. And then back over here, we should now be able to set up some automation. So what I think I'm going to do actually is kind of pick up a lot of what we've put down, because I want to have my unlimited water source kind of centralized on the back wall here. In fact, I might put this under water. So quick question, can I do /set home 2? I can. Oh no, I can't. It's you gotta have 1 home. Fine. In that case, what I'm thinking though is I'm thinking if we put down some wood here or something here, we can put the aqueous accumulator right there. That way we don't have to put down these buckets of water. Really, all you have to do is you have to make sure that there is 2 source blocks on 2 of the different sides of the aqueous accumulator. So you can put them down manually, or like I've done here, you can just put it in the ocean, at which point we can throw down our fluid duct like this. We can make sure that one of the attachment servos is down on this bit right here, so it's set to extract. You'll see immediately that then fills this up with water. We're going to go ahead and have that water pump into our dynamo right there. That's going to go ahead and start making steam, of course, as soon as we do that. Speaking of that, I'm thinking about where I'm going to put my hoppers, because we're going to have to use the inventory hoppers to send stuff to this. And the inventory hoppers, of course, were a little awkward in that they need the inventory pipe behind them. So I think what I might do is move this up by 1, like this. That should allow me to have the inventory hopper here and then the inventory pipe beneath it. And then we'll put the boiler itself down right about there for now. Should be fine. And then from there, we can just have, of course, our Stirling dynamo in front of it. And we're kind of running out of room space when we do that, which is a little bit awkward. We could try and build this vertically, but for now we'll leave this as is. And what we'll do is we'll put down a flux duct here, and then we'll put our pulverizer down here. It's a bit of a setup, but if we put fuel in here, this is going to start making power, and that power is going to get sent around to the pulverizer. So now we can begin to use that pulverizer to complete this next set of quests. Starting, of course, with the nickel dust, iron dust, and copper dust. But real quick, before I do that, I am going to quickly set up some more warp pipes so I don't have to keep running up and down this excruciatingly long corridor. Alright, so we've got some pipes down. I've put one here that takes me just right over to these machines, and then that drops me off here. And I've got another one here that takes me back to the center pipe, like all of the other room pipes do as well. You don't need this many pipes, you can just use the floor pipes. I quite like having me drop from the ceiling, so I quite like having those roof pipes there, but you could, if you wanted to, just have one pipe here and one pipe there and use them both to go back and forth. That would also work. But now, if we quickly go, and I'm going to go ahead actually and turn the sound down on those pipes. I'm going to go mute, 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 and then I'm going to just set them to maybe like 35%. I still want to hear them, I just want them to be a little bit quieter than they currently are. And if we quickly grab iron, copper, and nickel, we can now head over here and use the pulverizer to turn the iron into pulverized iron or iron dust. We can turn the nickel into nickel dust, and no points for guessing that we can turn the copper into copper dust. And the idea here is that we can then use these dusts to create new alloys. Specifically, the pack here wants us to create Invar and Constantan. Invar is 2 iron and 1 nickel, like so, and Constantan I think is 1 copper and 1 nickel. It is indeed. Nice. And so those 2 dusts now can be smelted in, I assume, the blast furnace, but maybe just in any old furnace. Yeah, the blast furnace is, of course, the faster way of doing it. They can be smelted into their respective ingots, and those ingots can be used to make new thermal expansion machines. And so over here, if we go ahead and check up on this, how are we doing? We are still kind of backing up. Even with the fuel there, it looks like we're backing up to the point where things are spewing out. That's mostly because there's not enough slots. And so, yeah, we're definitely going to have to look at getting more blast furnaces. Let me quickly whip up a few more of those. They shouldn't be that difficult. They do require copper and tin, but we've got a ton of that stuff now. And we, of course, have unlimited cobblestone to the point where I can very easily make a stack of furnaces there so we don't have to worry about it too much going forward. And then if we quickly eat some of our quote-unquote boiled duck eggs here. Lovely. We can then do 1, 2, 3, 4. Right now, these are not going to do anything, but I can use them to smelt Constantan and Invar. The plan is going to be to use item pipes here to distribute amongst all of these, and then we can import from all of them into the system. For now, though, we can complete both of these quests and claim the respective rewards. And the quest book wants me to do 2 things. It wants me to get a block of Constantan first and foremost, so we are going to have to break down even more copper and even more nickel to get enough Constantan for that. And then using that block of Constantan, we can make a multi-servo press. Let me just check that we have everything else required for the multi-servo press, apart from the blocks of, we need 2 blocks of Constantan. That's pretty expensive. So let's do this and this. So now we're just missing those 2 blocks of Constantan. Right now, we've effectively got 4 Constantan, but we need 18 in total, which means that we are going to have to get 14 more. That 14 more Constantan is going to be 7 copper, along with 7 nickel, because each copper gives you 1 copper dust, each nickel gives you 1 nickel dust, and 1 copper dust plus 1 nickel dust gives you 2 Constantan blend. And so I'm going to quickly pulverize all of the copper and all the nickel down. We'll then craft that into more Constantan blend, smelt that Constantan blend into Constantan ingots, and then we can craft those Constantan ingots into Constantan blocks for our multi-servo press, which we will go ahead and add to our wall of machinery. And once we have our 18 Constantan ingots, we should now be pretty much good to go. We'll get the 2 blocks, and we'll get, of course, the multi-servo press. Nice. We do need some more flux ducts if we're going to go ahead and connect this up to our current power system, because, of course, over here, we want to do something like this and like this. We'll throw down the multi-servo press here. This is now going to allow us to turn one of our Invar ingots into an Invar plate, which is what the multi-servo press does. And once we have that multi-servo press, I didn't have the Constantan in my inventory, and so the quest hasn't completed, which is horrible. But we need to get actually 4 Invar plates and a block of Invar. So I need to turn all of this Invar into plates, and I need to get 10 more Invar because I need to make, actually we do get Invar plates as a quest reward, so I should hold off on that because we're going to get 3 more here, which is enough to make this happen. I just need to get enough Invar to make the block, and then we can make the induction smelter, which requires even more Invar. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go ahead and get another block of Constantan so we can complete these quests here, and then after that, I will also go ahead and look at getting enough Invar to make all of this stuff down here. So again, just more iron and more nickel through the Pulverizer. And a bunch more pulverizing later, and a bunch more smelting later. I believe we have all of the Invar and all of the Constantan we need to not only fix our mistake from earlier by doing something like this. Again, you have to put the block in your inventory, otherwise the quest won't complete. The same is true for this multi-servo press here. We need to pick that up to complete that quest. And then now, as a quest reward, we should get some more Invar plates. We also get some more B-Bucks. We can now use all of the Invar plates with the Invar that we have. And Isaac, don't forget to use your warp pipes. There we go. We can do something like this to get a block of Invar. Perfect. And we can surround that block of Invar with Invar plates to get the gear working die. And the idea with the gear working die is that you can place it into the multi-servo press like this. And then from there, you can use the multi-servo press to turn 4 ingots into 1 gear. And so here we can turn 4 Invar ingots into 1 Invar gear. And we need 2 Invar gears to make the induction smelter, along with another blast furnace, another machine frame, some sand, and some redstone, all of which should be fairly straightforward. Do we have what it takes to make an induction smelter? Blast furnace, check. We've got a ton of redstone now. We're up at 161. You'll love to see it. Check. And if we want another machine frame, we just need to use that aforementioned block of redstone, quickly craft up one more, and boom, we have our induction smelter. If we quickly grab our flux ducts, which we are completely out of, we can go ahead and add this guy to our pre-existing line of machinery. So let's put that actually right here. Perfect. Boom and boom, and that is that quest line complete, as we just heard. And now we can begin looking at the Signalum questline, which begins by us making Signalum, which, if memory serves me right, is usually copper, silver, and redstone, although I have to assume that the recipe has been tweaked. It has. It requires tin, copper, and redstone in this pack, because of course we don't have access to silver just yet. Speaking of copper, we are a little low on the copper front, but in this pack, it is kind of just like bronze, but with redstone. So boom, boom, and boom. That should make us our first batch of Signalum, and presumably that is going to be required for making both the magma crucible and the fluid encapsulator. The magma crucible used here to make lava by the looks of it. I won't make any more just yet. It's also quite plausible that we do need more fuel in here. And it's also possible that it might not be a terrible idea for us to look at getting more dynamos as well, just so that we can increase the amount of power being produced, because right now, this guy produces a maximum of 80 RF per tick. Is that enough to run all of these machines? It actually is. Each one of these here can only do 20 redstone flux per tick, or only use 20 redstone flux per tick running at max speed. So even with all of these running at once, the one dynamo is going to be enough, which you'll have to see. I will claim this, and then for both of these, I assume we're going to need another machine frame, as well as presumably the Signalum that we just made. Let me quickly check. We'll unbookmark these. The Magma Crucible is a ton more invar, both in gear and block form, with one Signalum. That's super easy for us. And then the Fluid Encapsulator requires 2 copper gears, which we can, of course, make if we put 8 copper into here. That's going to get us 2 copper gears with some glass. I think any glass will do. A bucket, a machine frame, and again, 1 Signalum. So in fact, the 2 Signalum that we have is completely fine. And so I think then, I guess, once again, we're going to have to go ahead and get ourselves even more invar to allow us to make both of these machines. And once again, a bunch of invar later. I do believe that we are now basically good to go here. Let me get 2 blocks of invar. We should now have what it takes to make the fluid encapsulator. We do. And as for the magma crucible, we are just missing those 2 invar gears. Is the rest of my invar in here? It is indeed. Let me take that invar out, and let's make sure that we add 6 more invar to this setup. That's going to get us the 2 invar gears, and that's going to get us the magma crucible. The magma crucible here, it looks like, is going to be used to make lava, and then we're going to use that lava to allow us to make these coils. So the coils, actually, never mind, the coils are super easy to make. I don't know where the lava is necessary. It might not be useful just yet, but we'll come back to it, I guess. Back over here, let's quickly make that magma crucible though, and let's also go ahead and get some more flux ducts as well, because we are burning through them at a rapid pace. Over here, we can do this for the magma crucible, boom, and we can do this for the fluid encapsulator. So I will actually go ahead and get the lava cooking, because I think it's going to take a very long time to make lava using the magma crucible. You'll see here, 1 piece of cobblestone actually gets the full bucket. I think that recipe has been tweaked. Normally, it takes quite a bit of cobblestone to get 1 bucket of lava. The trouble here is that it does take, for 80 redstone flux per tick, which is the full speed of this steam dynamo. So we would have to have 1 dynamo kind of dedicated to the magma crucible. You'll also notice that we're going down on power there. I'm not quite sure why. I wonder if that's because this machine is also filling up. It's not. Oh, but now this is holding steady. So maybe that was filling up and now this is holding steady. That's fine. The thing is though, this takes 200,000 redstone flux to happen. As you can see here, we're currently using 80 redstone flux per tick. So 200,000 divided by 80 is 2,500 ticks. There are 20 ticks per second, so we can divide that number by 20, is 125 seconds. So it takes 2 minutes and 5 seconds to produce 1 bucket of lava using 1 piece of cobblestone. So it's cheap from a resource standpoint, but it's a little expensive from a time and from a power perspective. We are losing steam there, though. I wonder if the Stirling boiler just isn't producing steam fast enough for this. That's quite possibly the case. One thing we can do, of course, is we can go ahead and do something like this. Whoops, not like that. We can do something like this, and like this with another one of those servos to get more water into this Stirling boiler and produce twice as much steam. Hopefully, this didn't reset. It didn't. We did start losing power. I think if this does run out of power, the craft would stop, so you do want to make sure you have enough power to make this happen. We're still only producing 8 TRF per tick, but we now have twice as much steam being made, and so this is going to complete any second now. Perfect. Let me claim my rewards, and let's quickly head back over here, because we need to make this coil. The standard coil here is just iron in both nugget and ingot form. That is, of course, easy enough. Boom. And then from there, the redstone flux coil is made in the fluid encapsulator, which we did just make, along with some destabilized redstone. So I think what we're going to have to do is kind of twofold. First things first, let's get another empty bucket so that we can grab the lava out of our magma crucible. Perfect. And then what I think we'll do is I think we'll move some of these machines around. I'm going to take the multi-servo press and swap it with the fluid encapsulator. It's not strictly necessary, but I think it's going to make more sense because the idea here now is that in order to make this redstone flux coil, we need just 200 millibuckets of destabilized redstone in the fluid encapsulator, along with our coil. To get that redstone, we put redstone into the magma crucible. That's going to melt it down into, I think, 200 millibuckets. No, 100 millibuckets, so we need 2 of these. The benefit of having this machine next to this machine is that using the configuration tab, we can set this to output, which is orange. We can set in here, the left side, the side connecting to the magma crucible, to blue, which is input. And then over here, if we set the auto output to enabled, it's going to push all of the destabilized redstone from the magma crucible directly over into the fluid encapsulator, which is then going to use it to make the redstone flux coil. If we had have left the fluid encapsulator over here, we'd have to get a full bucket of destabilized redstone and then use a bucket, take it out, and then put it back in over here, which would have worked, but would have required more redstone, which we would have kind of wasted. So this is just an easier way of doing that. And now the pack wants us to make this crystallizer. The crystallizer is interesting because down here, we're going to get an amethyst shard, or we're going to be able to make an amethyst shard. And those amethyst shards can be used to make amethyst meshes, which will unlock the ability for us to finally get the gold and silver. And so for the crystallizer, we need 2 Constantan gears, easy enough, and then 2 Signalum plates, also fairly straightforward. We do unfortunately only have the 1 Signalum left here. Again, if you want to make plates, you do have to take the gear working die out. The machine won't make plates if it has the gear working die in. Thankfully, we can go ahead and get more Signalum fairly easily. I think more redstone is required there to make that happen, and also maybe, I guess, more copper and more tin as well. I should really check on the actual amounts there. 4 redstone, 3 copper, 1 tin. I see. 4 is going to be fine. Let's do a quick one of these to get another Signalum plate. And then from there, it's just the Constantan. And thankfully, look at that. We are actually prepared for it, almost by accident, due to the fact that we didn't complete that quest, because now we can very easily make 2 Constantan gears using that spare block that we made. And that's going to be everything for the crystallizer. Once we have that, the crystallizer is going to allow us to turn niter dust into niter with water in the crystallizer. And that should be fine because I'm fairly certain that we're getting niter dust from our gravelly mulch sifting. So let's take this, and in here, do we have niter dust? We do. We've got 160 of it. Perfect. Let me quickly get a few more flux ducts, and from there, a few more of these fluid ducts, because what we can then probably do over here is throw down our crystallizer, let's say here, and although it might be a little janky, if we do something like this, we can just pump water directly into the crystallizer. Of course, it doesn't connect until you set the bank to input, at which point it's going to fill with water. We can then, I guess we want to connect it to power as well, actually. So let me get rid of that. Let me go and grab at least 1, but potentially a few flux ducts here. And then let's connect that up to power like this. And then for now, I guess we might do it like this, actually, and have the bottom be set to input. By the way, you can left-click or right-click here to cycle through. You can also shift-left-click to clear it entirely if you'd like. And you can also shift-right-click with the crescent hammer to pick these up more easily. And I think what I might do is just kind of run this like this for now. It's a little awkward, but it means we can get over here to access this stuff for now. And this should work. So if I do that, is this going to work for us? The answer is probably yes, but as soon as we get even more fuel into our dynamo. So let's do you, and then ideally, oh, I got myself lost. Let me do this, and this, and this. Nice. Okay, so that should bring this online, and we should start to see that niter getting turned into actual niter from its dust form, at which point we can then make the purifying salt mulch, which is charcoal, mulch, and niter. Easy enough, along with amethyst dust, which is going to be niter underneath that purified water in a strainer. That's only a 10% chance with a tier 3 mesh. Tier 4 is 20% chance. What tier is the iron mesh? I think it's tier 3. It is. So we're only going to have the 10% chance to start with, and I'm assuming that we need a few of those. We just need one, actually, for now. One of the amethyst dust is going to get us one amethyst shard. That will complete the quest. If we do want to get the amethyst mesh, though, we of course need 5 amethyst shards. And so we are going to want to get 5 amethyst dust. At a 10% chance, though, that means that we might need approximately 50 of these niter crystals, because if you expect 1 in 10, then 50 you would expect to get 5 as a return. It's not guaranteed, of course. We could get 5 from 5 niter, but approximately 50 niter crystals will get us 5 amethyst dust, which would be enough. And so we kind of just need to leave this running until we get enough of the niter crystals, although I guess as well, the first 6 we do want to use to make the purified water. We've got the charcoal, we've got the mulch, we're actually basically good to go. We just need to get enough niter crystals to make this happen. And unfortunately, right now, there's not really much we can do, I don't think, to make this faster. Later on down the line, we will be able to use integral components, these guys right here. There is the hardened, the reinforced, the resonant, and then the draconic. These will increase the speed of our machines, but right now they do require gold, which is something we do not have. There are also augments we can make that will increase the speed of the machine, like the flux linkage amplifier, but again, this requires gold in the form of electrum, which we don't yet have, electrum being a blend of gold and silver. And so, for the time being, outside of making more of these crystallizers, I think we kind of just have to wait for this to kind of passively do its thing. All right, so this thing is real slow, but we're very close to our 5th niter here, and I think we also have one in our chest system, so that should be 6 in total, which should then be enough for us to make this purifying salt mulch. It is indeed. And then, just like before with our eroding salt mulch, I believe that we can use this on a block of mulch to create purified water. So for that, we are going to need to get another bucket, because right now our bucket is full of lava. So let's do one of these, and then let's do a quick one of this, this, and this. Nice. So the purified water bucket here is going to go above another strainer. And again, ideally here, we are going to want to get another strainer tank as well. The leafy mesh, is that going to be the easiest thing for us to do? It might be, because we've got so many of these leaves here. So I think getting 2 leafy meshes might be the cheapest way of us making a new strainer. There are, of course, other ways for us to do it, but that seems fairly straightforward. And then ideally, if we have enough glass, we'd also get another strainer tank. We do. Perfect. So let's put this down. And I guess for now, we'll put that down over here. I'll probably move it at some point in the future, but just as a proof of concept, let's do this. And one thing we can do here is we can look again at getting some of these strainer upgrades, because right now, if I put 1 niter in, there's a 1 in 10 chance that we get the amethyst dust. However, if we use one of the input upgrades, we've got 2 choices, I guess, actually. The input upgrade increases the chance that the niter doesn't get used. So again, if we look over here, the blue input upgrade here, input consumption chance is 80%, which means that there's a 1 in 5 chance that the niter doesn't get used. And as we move up the tiers here, the highest tier one, the everlasting input upgrade, which is this guy right here, this has an input consume chance of just 20, which means 4 out of 5 times, 80% of the time, it is not going to use the niter. That would be ideal. We could also look at the other upgrade, the one that increases the output as well, but given that our input is the bottleneck, I think that that is going to make more sense. So the improved input upgrade is fairly straightforward. We've made these resource generators before. Of course, we just take some buckets of water and we craft those up. Getting 4 of these should be fine. The lapis has been coming in thick and fast since the start of the episode, so we do have a ton more of it now. And if we want to upgrade from the first tier here, the improved input upgrade, to the next tier, it's really not that difficult. It's just 4 more of these generators. And so if we can make 8 of these tier 2 resource generators, we can go straight from tier 1 to tier 2. That's going to take us to a 60% chance, I think. So 2 out of 5 times it's not going to use the item, which is still an improvement. but then we could try and take it a little bit further because the tier 3 one here just requires some stone and then some granite. It does specifically have to be granite. And then the tier 4 one, the everlasting one, the one that gives us a 4 out of 5 chance to not even use the niter, just requires, again, 4 more resource generators. So if we can get 12 resource generator 2s and 4 granite, we should be able to get to this highest tier of input upgrade, which gives us an 80% chance that the niter isn't even used, and it still gives us the 10% chance of getting the amethyst dust. Now, the one trouble with this plan is that we don't have any granite and there's no recipe for granite. However, the Twitch chat is of the opinion that we might be able to find some granite if we head down to the ocean floor and do a little bit of digging around. There might be like a little cave potentially that has access to granite lower down. If not, we might have to wait until later in the pack to actually get that granite. But I'm hopeful that we'll make 1 and 2 more. That is our 12th tier 2 resource generator right here. From there, we can make the improved. We can then make the sturdy, like so. And then now, if we want to make the tier 3, we just need that granite. And so I am going to dump most of my stuff here into the system, just so we don't lose it if we die. And then let's also go ahead and grab our shovel here, and let's go do a quick check and see if we can't find a little bit of granite down at the bottom of the ocean. And there we go, we found it straight away. So we're actually not that far away from our base, it's just up there. It's very dark down here, I do apologize, I should have brought some underwater torches. But all I did was I switched my shovel. So if you hold down the ultimine key and then you hold shift, you can scroll between these different ultimine options. I went for mining tunnel, which is this one right here. It kind of creates a staircase going down. And so we dug down a bit, and then I used my pickaxe to do the same thing. I dug a staircase that kind of goes all the way down there. I don't know if you can quite see it, but it's kind of staggered all the way down to the bottom. And as I dug that out, I got some granite. And so if we head on back up to the surface, we should be able to make our reinforced input upgrade, and then from there, the everlasting input upgrade. And so this upgrade is super powerful because it means that we don't need that much of the input resource to get a lot of the output resource. And so if we were to make another iron mesh here, and we were to place that iron mesh in to here, we should then be able to take this niter, put it in, and now there's a good chance, 4 out of 5 chance, or 80%, that this niter doesn't even get used. So we should see that this finishes, and we still have 5 niter. Nice. And that's going to keep going. And every time we only have a 1 in 10 chance of getting amethyst, but there's a chance that we get amethyst and it doesn't use the niter, which is perfect. And so we can kind of just leave this running passively in the background. We could also, of course, look at hoppering out the niter kind of around into here if we wanted to as well to keep it all going, but this should just keep going. And this is kind of like us having just a much larger amount of niter because there's only a 1 in 5 chance that it gets used. And look at that, we got our amethyst dust, which does complete that quest. And the final quest here just wants us to run that as well through here. I'll wait till this thing finishes, which of course takes an obscene amount of time, but any second now, once it's done, any day, there we go, we can put this in, take this out, and that's going to get us our first amethyst. That is going to go ahead and complete the quest line. Of course, we are ideally looking to get the amethyst mesh here so we can begin getting the gold and silver that we need for Electrum. That looks like it is going to unlock the mystical agriculture mod for us, which I'm very excited about. This also looks like it takes a ludicrous amount of time, but as soon as we get that amethyst mesh, we are going to open up quite a bit of extra stuff for us, and we're already like kind of halfway through the pack. I don't know how hard the end of the pack is going to be here, but we are making some good progress. Of course, the everlasting everything upgrade will be better than the everlasting input upgrade, but I think that a lot of the everlasting upgrades require netherite. Yeah, we need either emerald or netherite meshes. We need, this is the one we have, of course. This one here requires netherite, and this one here requires actually just clocks, which is gold, which of course we don't have just yet, but the duration upgrade also could have been possible. We definitely couldn't, though, have gotten the everlasting output upgrade. That wouldn't have been possible because we don't have the netherite. What we do have, though, is an amethyst shard, and with that, we have indeed completed the Signalum questline, and unfortunately, with that, we are out of time for this episode of Submerged.